Hey y'all, it's Travis. I hope you're doing good. I'm in my Columbia office here, and I thought it might be fun to share a few stories from my career. I'm doing this mostly for my family. My son might get a kick out of this one day. I thought it'd be fun just to share some interesting stories. Photography's opened up a lot of doors for me to meet interesting people and do some really fun things over the years. And I worked in newspapers for about 5 years full time, and then went to work for Governor Jim Hodges. I started in February of '99 and worked through November of 2000 doing that. And that was just an incredible experience. He's such a great guy to work with. And one of the things that stands out from working with Governor Hodges is in February of 2000, we went down to Edisto Island to watch the filming of a Mel Gibson movie. And it was called The Patriot. And we got to go in and watch them film a scene. We got to meet Mel Gibson, and we had lunch afterwards with the producer and the director. And during lunch, we met a guy named Heath Ledger. I didn't know who he was at the time. He was kind of this up-and-coming actor. He had a couple nice roles, and he was in that movie. But he eventually starred in The Dark Knight, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, and he got an Oscar for it. But I got to meet him that day, and seeing the movie filmed and meeting some of the people, the director, producer, and some of the actors, that was great. But really the fascinating thing about that day was there's a widow at the time. This was, gosh, over 20 years ago. But at the time, there was a widow who had inherited all this land at Edisto Island, and one of the ways she helped pay for the land, just the upkeep and the taxes, was to rent out her property to Hollywood. There's been dozens of movies made at this property. Jim Carrey filmed Ace Ventura 2 on this property, but just a lot of films, TV, movies have been made on this property. Well, after lunch, the producer and director invited us to take a ride around the property and to see some of the scenes they were setting up, just out on the marsh there, and it was really, really interesting to go do that. And so we get in the van. It's Governor Hodges riding up front. Morton Brilliant and I are in the back, and to my left is the widow. She's sitting right beside me, and we start riding around the property. This is hundreds of acres down there, just a lot of property to ride around on. And we drive out to this area, and she looks at me and says, "Hey, do you see that tree house out there?" And I said, "Absolutely, I do. It's probably 200 yards away." And she says, "My husband and I used to go out there. My husband built that tree house. We'd go out there and take dinner out there, do sunsets out there. It was a really special place for us." I said, "Oh, that's pretty cool there. The neat story there that you can go out there and do that." Well, then here's the interesting part. She says, "We had a problem though one time years ago." And I said, "What's that?" She said, "We got a call from the government, and the government said, 'Listen, we need you to leave your property for a specific amount of time. And there's something going on there.'" And of course they didn't quite understand, but they did what they asked and went away. It turns out that her treehouse was this drug cartel drop off for all these drugs, and the DEA came in and did a drug raid on their property one night. They knew when these people were coming in, they were bringing in helicopters and dropping all these drug shipments to their house. I just always thought it was interesting, because imagine living somewhere where you point to treehouse, so yeah, that's where a lot of drugs were dropped off at our property. So these cartels are using it to drop off shipments, and it was just a fascinating story. That's the one thing that stands out about that day. It's great seeing the movie made, but seeing this lady talk about her treehouse that later on was part of a drug raid was absolutely fascinating. But that was a good time. We had a good day down there, and I just wanted to share that story.